Oh crap.
Okay, I think we are live. I'm trying to mute my other monitor before this gets crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast. I am Michael, and tonight I've gathered some of the RPG Academy faculty, and we are going to talk a little bit about AcadeCon 2016, some of the highlights of it, what we loved, and maybe a little bit about 2017, what we hope to do differently, and just share some stories. We do have some people in the chat. Thank you guys very much for being here, and we will try to get to your questions if we can. It's moving pretty quick, so you may have to write it more than once if we don't see it. But before we get too far, we want to introduce everybody because there are some people here that you may not have heard recently, or you may not know their faces to their voices. So again, my name is Michael. I am the Professor Fluff, the co-host of the RPG Academy. And with me tonight, I have Michael.
Question mark? Yes. Hello, Acadiverse.
So who are you?
I am, I am Verjaeger on Twitter handle. Michael Franke, to those that know me. Part of the Academy faculty for, I guess, about a year and a half, 2 years now, and excited to jump in, talk about our favorite con, and see what questions we got.
Fantastic. Thank you much. And then next we have Matthew Parody.
Hello. How are you? I'm here. I'm on the East Coast, extended faculty. Sometimes I get recognition. Usually not.
You know, when you deserve it or earn it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't, it's your fault, not mine, right?
Exactly. It's always my fault.
Awesome.
That's what the Christmas card says, at least.
That's right. All right. And we have Jared. Jared, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jared, at the other Jared1 on Twitter. And I am part of the faculty as well, and I get zero recognition as well.
Well, you will live in infamy for being Wang from our very first ever campaigns that you were.
Really? That's what I'm known for, Wang? The craziest player I've ever played in my life? Wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then finally joining us tonight, we have my favorite co-host and yours, the Caleb G.
Hello, Academaniacs. What's happening out there in Radio Land? I say that specifically for Shane. It's Academaniacs. Deal with it.
So someone said they can't hear me. Hopefully that has changed. Oh, yeah. Okay.
God,
there we go.
That's my dream.
Yeah. So, yes, Caleb does pronounce Academaniacs incorrectly. But
oh, no, you pronounce it incorrectly, sir. It's Academaniacs.
It's based on Academaniac or Animaniacs. There's no way. You're wrong. But we're not here to discuss when and why and how often Caleb is wrong. We're here to discuss AcadeCon 2016.
I might need more bourbon.
You very much might.
Way ahead of you.
So I guess we'll start with Caleb, since I did the reverse introductions. Caleb, do you have any particular moments about AcadeCon that just stand out to you? As always, I'll throw it to you, and then I'll interrupt that. We did do a separate podcast episode where we gave a lot of specific thank yous to everybody. So feel free to do that again, but we're not necessarily going to try to hit the thank yous. There's a whole bunch. We forgot some on the podcast, so we're just not going to try. But if there's a specific thank you want to give, go for it.
I want to thank Rob for not moving chairs. Simply because of that, he is still alive to be hosting the Orpheus Protocol as we speak.
Fantastic. Do not move the chairs. Well, that's one thing I can mention already is that our current plans for 2017 involve a couple of separate rooms that we will schedule some RPG sessions in, specifically things like horror games or games that might be specifically very loud, because we also got some feedback that some of the other games were kind of boisterous in the main hall. So we have taken that feedback. We are going to try to make that different and better. Awesome. All right, Jared, how about you? You're someone that doesn't have a lot of time on the podcast specifically, but you're a valued member of the faculty. What was your takeaways from AcadeCon 2016?
Oh, well, other than nobody showed up for my game, not much. No, every year it gets better and better. I really enjoy the people that it brings, and it's kind of it's humbling and overwhelming at the same time to realize that there are so many people that take interest in it. And, you know, I'm very appreciative and thankful for all those people who attend, and especially those who travel, you know, from, again, it's also amazing to hear people and where they come from, all, you know, the travel that they've done just to come to AcadeCon is just, you know, amazing. And it's overall exciting experience, and I can't wait for next year.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, Matthew, how about you? What were some takeaways from 2016?
Well, I probably should have tried to play more games, tried to work less, tried to win Geek Wars better. That's about it. Other than that, I had a great time.
Fantastic. Before we go to Michael, I'm going to mention that Scott has joined us. So, Scott, if you want to jump in and say hello to everybody.
Howdy, all you kids out there in Radio Land.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
They said hi back. Really,
That's a good chorus of responses. Thanks. Thank you
there's
all.
Just like an
Feel
improv show.
welcomed.
It's like he knows how
You know how to
like, they
Can
can't
I get a
respond
word of
back.
inspiration?
No.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Jim. Thank you, Jim.
So we'll jump into Michael. What are some of your thoughts, takeaways from 2016?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts. You know me, I'm a talker. I get real like romantic about gaming. I will try not to be too crazy about it, but it was really rewarding to be part of such a sort of grassroots convention, because as grassrooty as the grass in your basement can get, that I'm sure was growing in AcadeCon 1 to being in the Dayton Convention Center, and it's amazing. And then just getting to highlight a new way of gaming and new games to my friends. That was probably my favorite part of AcadeCon. And my goals for next year are to get less sleep and see what happens. Just because it was already turning into one giant game of life. So yeah, those are my goals.
So before we go to Scott here, where Scott will just ask you to kind of share some feedback and overall thoughts about 2016. One of the feedback comments on the survey is that we should extend this to a 4-day con so that we have more time to spread out. I don't think we're ready for that now, but that is something that could certainly happen in the future. But we'll see. But anyways, all right, Scott, so please give us some of your feedback and thoughts on 2016.
I think my general thoughts and feedback are that I was impressed with our ability to fill up the new space. It was delightful as always to see happy, smiling faces of people who'd never heard of the podcast and people who were locals, and I think I'll echo everybody else's statements that I've heard so far that it's a heartwarming group to be a part of. It's also fascinating to, even within such an early focused hobby as ours, there are offshoots and subdivisions that you don't realize you're a part of until you start to experience other subgroups. I got exposed to a lot of tabletop games that I've never played before. I think it was a rich experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to next year.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, I've already gushed about AcadeCon a lot. I pretty much at this point almost never stop talking about it, it seems like, until people make me. AcadeCon 2016 was amazing. It was such an amazing experience. Caleb and I talked a little bit about this on the podcast we did specifically, but it's sort of like when you think you have like a big TV and then you go to a friend's house and they have a bigger TV, or you think you have fast internet and then you go to a friend's house and they have faster internet. I really felt that AcadeCon 2015 was a convention. And now looking back, I don't know that it was, and I don't want to take away from it. It was still an amazing experience, but it was basically just a bunch of people hanging out playing games. It was like a gamers weekend that we happened to rent out. I feel like 2016 was our first real convention. There were people there who had no idea who we were. There were people that literally walked in off the street because they saw the marquee and asked questions, and some people came in and played games. We had vendors, we had panels. I don't know how to explain it. Just, it felt like it was a huge step forward for us. Very encouraging that we can continue to do more. And I'm really hoping that we will continue to grow. We do obviously have plans for AcadeCon 2017. Funnily enough, we had set the date for November 10th, 11th, and 12th. That might actually change. If it does change, it'll change very soon. We're going to know very quickly, so we'll be able to get that out. But there's a chance we're going to try to move it off of that weekend, because there's another convention up in Northern Ohio called Con on the Cob, which has been around for about 10 years. It's very well established, and I kind of hate conflicting with them. We're also butted up really close to Metatopia as well as the holidays. So we're kind of thinking about maybe scooting it back a little bit. But as of now, nothing's changed. If it does, we will certainly let everybody know. And then probably the other big thing, if you haven't already heard, is we have set the date for the Kickstarter. So we will be doing Kickstarter again to pre-sell badges, which was going to go live on April 13th. So if you want to get an early bird badge, especially if you want a VIP badge, because those do go really quickly, April 13th, I think at 1 o'clock p.m. is p.m. Eastern time is what we're looking at. So we'll go back the other way. So we'll start with Scott. Scott, what are some things that you want to see us try to do differently for 2017? Either sky's the limit or realistic, your choice.
That's an excellent question. I'd say that given the huge volume of space, it was a bit hard to get it festive. It'd be neat to be able to festive up the space in a couple of ways. I think we had a couple of issues of scheduling. Of course, what GameCon does not have issues with scheduling. So that would be my pie in the sky impossible thing, would be have a scheduling issue free con. That would be miraculous. And otherwise, I think it would also be great if somehow I could do everything. That would be fantastic, because there are too many good things not to miss out on. That's a real shame.
I'll say, but you did run one game with like 5 systems in it. Was that your way of trying to cheat that?
It was, and I failed. Turns out 2 hours is a bit much for 5 systems. We only hit 4, so lesson learned. Next time I'll have a 4-hour block for that game.
I'll admit, when I saw that on the schedule, I was like, that's very ambitious. It sounded very cool. But yeah, 2 hours did not seem like enough time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So, Michael, what about you? Pie in the sky or realistic? What do we want to do differently in 2017? You're muted, Michael. Aha, there we go.
Aha, there was a space bar involved in my life, and it muted me. Beautification, I think, is like Scott hit on it. Like we can make everything prettier, and that's all. Like glitter on everything. No, but just sort of touching
bedazzling everything.
Bedazzle literally everything, including Caleb. That would be awesome. Yeah, he's excited about it. Look at him, I can tell.
Nope.
He's convulsing side to side with joy.
Not gonna happen.
But digital schedule and better on-the-fly scheduling, which I think comes from the digital scheduling, is I think high on our list, and I'd like to see it, because I think it's literally just, we have all these great GMs and we have all these great players, and how do we put them together? And that's what I'm excited to make happen for next year, because literally I was running around just trying to get people into games that I knew would like it. That's what I knew what my friends liked, so I tried to get them into games that I know they would like on the fly. Unfortunately, I can't do that for everybody because I'm not Scott. But that's my number one thing for next year.
So I want to jump in here just because it's somewhat funny. I've been going through the survey feedback. We're up to 90 responses out of like 235 emails that I sent. So we're not quite at 50% participation, which was kind of my target for what I wanted to get to total. But it's really interesting that there's like, it's because we have, I mean, you're dealing with people, but we literally have like completely opposite feedback regarding the schedule. Like one person in particular said that they loved the giant sheets on the wall. They thought that was great. They loved having them there. They loved being able to walk up and see what was going on. And then someone else literally was like, take down those stupid posters, just go all digital. I don't understand why we have those. And it's just kind of funny that, again, you're dealing with people how have different viewpoints. And I think what I want to say there is that if you come back next year and we didn't take your suggestion, understand that maybe we couldn't, or maybe the other people, had suggested the opposite. I am looking more for trends than like one-offs. And then just again to clarify, in case people jumped in late, we are currently planning on having multiple separate rooms this year, because this year we had the main room and then one side room for U2K and Cthulhu, which we're doing again next year. We're going to have separate rooms just for panels, and then we're going to have an additional separate room that's just for certain games that can be scheduled, whether they be horror games or just games that probably need a little bit more privacy. The sort of thing that I'm concerned about that is we probably had a room bigger than we actually needed this year. And if we start spreading people out, where we have all the people in panels in different rooms and we have 2 separate rooms for games, if we don't increase our attendance drastically, then that room's going to be very cavernous. And I mean, it's going to look like it's only 25% filled. And even though if we sell enough badges to make our money or whatever, just that feel of, hey, this doesn't feel like there's a lot of people. I'm a little bit worried about how that psychologically will affect people. So that is something I'm concerned about. We ended up selling about 330 badges this year on a goal of 300, which was awesome. My goal for next year is 500. So that's what I'm aiming for. All right, Matthew, to you, 2017. Matthew's blocked. Or muted.
Okay. I couldn't get the button to unmute myself to come back. It was just gone. 2017, Pie in the Sky. Live play with an audience, comedy show, free drinks, servers,
Digital
playing more games, and less Hanabi. Great.
digital servers or like
Matthew
No,
wants to be in a casino. Matthew wants to be in a casino
He
next
wants
year.
people
is what he's
serving
saying.
him drinks.
Exactly. If you're sitting down at a gaming table, someone comes over to you and says, "Sir, can I get you something from the bar?" And you're like, "You know what? Can I just 15? Is that good? No? Okay, great. I'll have a Manhattan."
How's the Luxor work for you, buddy? Luxor,
That works. I mean,
Excalibur. I mean, where do you want to go?
it's a pyramid. I think we should go with Luxor. You know what I mean?
Excalibur does have the right theme, though. Let's be honest.
Well, Caesars also has a very good theme too. I mean,
I think we're all thinking
Tit for tat.
Bellagio. We're just let's go big.
But not Circus Circus. That place sucks.
Yeah, no.
To answer Jen's question, the way the posters were supposed to work was that it was just a reference for you to see what games were coming up, and if they had seats available. You were still supposed to check in at the desk to verify that there were actual seats available, because the first year we did this in 2015, we had people that were writing themselves in. The problem was we had 5 seats, 7 people might write themselves in. So then we had tables that were overbooked. So to try to keep that from happening, this year we said writing on the schedule doesn't really do anything. You have to check in at the desk. Unfortunately, we didn't put someone right next to it with a laptop, which would have been, a great idea. It could have solved a lot of steps and problems. So we're kind of going back and forth. I have a feeling that we probably will not have the posters next year unless we cannot get the scheduling system fixed. And fixed isn't the right word, because it actually worked really well. Just we need to get it enhanced, and we are working with Ro. He absolutely has some ideas to make it bigger and better, and we have some feedback from ourselves and from the surveys on how we can do it. Some simple things like, if you're a GM, it should show you that that's in your games. It should make sure that it doesn't allow conflicts, and you should be able to print out like a schedule from it. You should be able to see who signed up. So if you're the GM, you can actually see the names of the players, or even maybe their emails. So that way you can email everyone and do some pre-work and maybe work out pre-gen type of thing. We also want to have a way where you can choose what type of table you want, because we had some games that were way too large for the tables we had. So we want to be able to say, yes, I need an 8-foot square table because I need 12 chairs around it, rather than I just need a small table for 3 chairs, that type of thing. So there are some things that we're already looking at that we want to do. But again, Ro's working for free. I'm at his mercy. I know he wants to do a good job for us, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. All right, Jared, what about you? 2017.
Well, first and foremost, I also think that Scott could have done everything, done more. There were points where he went to the bathroom where he wasn't doing things, and that bothered me. But besides that, the adding on to the schedule, I do think maybe having a big schedule like at the registration desk as at a glance kind of thing might be beneficial. But yeah, using it as our sole means of scheduling games and booking seats was kind of hectic. And there were points where you'd sit down and then somebody would join a game. You have to get right back up, and then you'd come back, and it was kind of a Stone Age way of doing it. But yeah, I definitely agree with the rest of everybody else that we should have more of an online thing, and then just have maybe like a 11x17 sheet or like I said, the backdrop or whatever of something of all the games that we can reference at a glance. Other than that, maybe if we could establish some restaurants around the place, if you guys know anybody who's trying to start up a restaurant in the Dayton area, that would be great because there's not much options. But other than that, I mean, I didn't take anything negative out of it.
So that's again, I want to jump in there. That's somewhat funny. Is one of the reasons why we moved away from the lodge. One was because the lodge is in the middle of nowhere, and despite the fact that most people love the ambiance, which I did too, it just wasn't big enough for us to grow. But we also moved because we thought, hey, we'd be in a city. There's gonna be a lot more restaurants around. Not really true. Not super convenient in any way. So that's definitely something we want to look at by far.
Yeah, well, I mean, for people like me who are fat, who don't want to walk, it's an issue. Like if we could rent out like golf carts or something for people to drive to the restaurants, then I'd be perfectly okay with that.
Well, servers.
By far,
servers, yes.
Again, not even close. By far, the number one negative feedback was about the food. Like, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I understand it's a convention center. Food's not going to be good. But, oh, by the way, the food wasn't very good. And it was expensive. So, again, probably out of all the critical comments that we got, almost all of them were related to food and almost nothing else. So one thing, and actually Greg just brought it up, food trucks. That is something we talked about, trying to get a food truck line for the day. The issue we ran into is that most of them shut down for the winter and they're not available in November. If we move it to a different time of the year, then absolutely that will be something on our short list to try to set up a food truck line.
Is that a conflict with the convention because we use their concessions? I mean, do they have an issue with us having food trucks? Oh.
No, well, they have some weird rules. Like the food trucks aren't allowed to be right out front of the convention center. There's like a radius, but it's like a 1 block away. So it's definitely within walking distance where they could be set up. The way the convention center work their concessions is if we want them, we had to pay them basically like a deposit, and if they didn't sell enough concessions, then we lost the difference. If we just say we don't want to do concessions because instead we're going to set up the food truck, then it's okay. If they decide to do concessions on their own and they don't sell anything, that's on them. But if we ask them to do concessions, we have to give them money. So then it's in our best interest for people to use the concession stand. So again, there's a back and forth. What makes the most sense? How many people do we think we have? That kind of thing.
Just give me a grill and I'll grill food for everybody, and then we'll just charge our own fee.
Yeah.
We'll call it Jared's food truck, and it's
all the money will go to charity.
Yeah, we
Can
got
you
the
give us a
garage
segue
just out
to
back in
the
the
food
garage.
trucks that are a block away?
nice. Awesome. All right, Caleb, I think we're on you now. What are your wish lists for 2017?
I'm waiting for you to interrupt me.
Patient.
No, you're not going to interrupt me?
He's not going to do it? Who's going to cave? This is like a war of the minds right now.
Do I actually get to say something? I don't know.
He's waiting. He can't do it.
Go, I got you. Go. I got you covered.
All right. Well, I'll second everything that was said by everyone else. I don't know. I feel like something that I felt was missing was a kind of a central launching point for everything. We had the check-in desk, we had the games out front, but there wasn't like a big, hey, welcome to AcadeCon. Let's talk, let's hang out kind of thing. Like I want kind of an MC intro. Maybe we can get some skits going. Maybe we can mirror Matthew there and get some live stuff going. I don't know. I just want, I know we're growing and getting bigger and bigger, but I also want to maintain that sense of just hanging out and playing games like we had that first year or the year before or the third year, however you want to call it.
Well, I'll go ahead and start emceeing because there's nothing that I hate more than an awkward silence or void. That's an amazing comment, Caleb, and I absolutely think that you offered a unique perspective that nobody has yet to offer. Obviously, there's car horns outside of my apartment, but of course there are. How do you think the best way would be to go about this? What do you think we need in order to follow up?
Is that question to me, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Well, I think one of the biggest issues was when we're in that big cavernous convention hall. That is not really conducive to a little shenanigan on stage, or let me grab the microphone and make an announcement. The couple times I actually did make announcements, it felt very intrusive, and I just felt like I was interrupting the games. I felt like the sound quality wasn't very good. But that's kind of par for the course with a big convention. I don't know. I do not have a good answer right now. I'll throw it back to you, Mr. Scott.
Do we need to have like I mean, I love the idea of an opener. You know, every conference or convention, even like corporate retreat stuff, right? Even if people trickle in all the day, right? They have like a 7 o'clock, like we're going to be jazzed up about the terrible pyramid scheme we sell, right? For an hour.
Oh, can let's do trust falls next year? Trust falls.
That'd be great. That'd be great. So we could use the foyer space. I mean, that's large and carpeted, more sound insulated, and then officially open the doors. I think there are options, and I look forward to exploring them.
Yeah,
like we did in the hotel room this year.
Oh yeah, more of that next year.
Well, tell me more about this.
Well, if you remember the specific clause in the terms and conditions.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
There is one thing I wanted to add to my spiel that I forgot to mention, and that was when I was wandering around, and not to interrupt you, Caleb, in your moment. Wait, that's what we're supposed to do is interrupt you.
Rule of threes, keep it going.
And maybe this was just a coincidence when I was walking around the main hall there, was I noticed there was a lot of like families playing with their kids and stuff. I didn't see a lot of kids in games. There was one game that I was a part of that a kid joined, and then he was kind of running around and stuff. But I didn't really see games that were tailored towards kids or families or whatnot. Usually the families were just playing games by themselves, which is fine. But it would have been great if there were some events or something tailored towards the family atmosphere or kids or something.
And that is something that's in the back of my mind for future. I think myself, I didn't know if we were big enough yet for that to be necessary. I mean, our first year publicly, I think we had one kid, Angela, came, which was awesome. But, you know, how much time and effort do we need to devote to that? I think as we get larger and we become more of a destination where people are traveling, they either may have to bring their kids or they may want to. It's definitely something I would like to do, but it's also another resource. So, you know, when we have people that at the registration desk, people at the checkout desk, now we have, because I'm not, you know, I don't feel comfortable just letting strangers, I guess, hang out with kids. I would want someone that I knew to be in charge of that area. I don't know. It's something that I'm thinking of, but I don't have a good answer to. And if there's a demand, then absolutely that's something that we need to do. And as I start to game more and more with my kids, I would like my kids to come to some future AcadeCons and hang out. But it's a balancing act between what we can do and what we want to do.
Yeah, like just designating a table or something for family games or something it's a resource you've got to expend.
Right.
But
we had the room. Obviously, we could have done that. One of the things from feedback in the surveys regarding kind of what we were talking about was to have someone, I would call them like a muster station. I don't know what the right con term would be, to help find games for people. So if there's a GM that 2 people didn't show up, there needs to be a very easy way for that GM to let either the general populace know, hey, I have seats open, or a specific person, a faculty member, to say, hey, I got 2 seats. And then that person go look for people and go, hey, we got 2 seats at this game. And because we had quite a few tables where half the people didn't show up, and we could have combined games or moved people around. And I think one of the other things for me, I really like the fact that we had a large room, because we could let people schedule their games whenever they wanted. We didn't have to have that rigid game start at 9, they go to 1, there's an hour break, they start back at 2. I kind of think that would have been better to do it that way anyway, even though we had the room for it, because that way it would be easier to schedule, and you're not going to miss something because your game lasts 1 hour longer than that game that started. So I think something that came up, and I do believe it was actually Ryan who mentioned have like an A and B schedule. So you have games that start 9 to 1, and then some games go 10 to 2, and each section has an hour break. So you can schedule yourself for either an hour or 2 hours in between each of your games if you want to, hit the concession stand for 15 minutes, or if you want to walk down or drive to a restaurant. It would just be an easier way to facilitate the schedules, and it would be easier to do announcements, because we're not going to announce at 12 o'clock and interrupt games that started at 11. We're going to say 11:55, we're doing announcements, the game started at 12. Really, no one's getting interrupted that way. So that's something that I'm looking at for next year, is an A and B schedule with slots.
But what about jerks like me who just want to run 1 hour and 2 hour games?
We can still do that as an exception. You wouldn't have to run 4 hour games, but you still would start at a start time.
All right.
We can just have Scott's Corner or whatever, and just you can just run games all the time over there.
Yeah, I think
it has a jingle.
Yeah.
But I think in my mind, I was thinking that that's what the open gaming table would be. It would just sort of naturally become sort of a hangout while people were waiting for games, and maybe they had an hour to kill. They would just grab something from the Play to Win library. I think some people did that, but I think it would have been helpful to just say, hey, if you're not doing anything, why don't you congregate here? Maybe have a faculty member there doing demos of board games, or trying to organize people. I think that would have been helpful.
The other comment I was going to make about your comments, about Caleb's comments was or in regard to Caleb's comments and your comments was that you mentioned right, the need for somebody to kind of hassle people into games, right? And I think Michael, other Michael, also mentioned this, right? That being able to advertise and sell games is kind of exciting and involving there on the floor. And of course, Caleb mentioned the need for an MC, right? Someone make announcements. Maybe this is the same human being. Maybe we need a town crier, a specific role, and then assign that out, and they figure out how to be heard and stuff. We schedule bits, and otherwise they're just selling and doing and on and exciting.
Makes sense to me.
We'll put it on the whiteboard for the brainstorm session.
Town
Nice.
crier. Scott's idea. Copyright 2016.
Entry number 167.
And of course, you should make these announcements right in the middle of the games, so that people have to stop what they're doing in the games to focus on the announcement.
Yeah,
That is correct.
But
Yeah.
Caleb mentioned that right, it's the space is so big, you can't be loud and still be understood, right? The beauty of being a town crier is that you do a roguelike, right? You sneak up behind a game and then surprise them by announcing it just to that table, right? And then you can interrupt each table at different times.
Well, I got your attention.
Yeah, that's my patented sneak attack bard.
Sneak attack board. Oh my god.
Yes, only uses sonic attacks, get sneak attack dice.
So particularly with the panels moving to another room or rooms next year. We will have actually more floor space for tables, though we are also hoping to expand vendors. The vendors was a win for us this year. A lot of the feedback was that people were happy with them, that they were there. Probably the only critical feedback was that this is kind of funny, there wasn't a lot of actual gaming stuff that was being sold. Like nobody was selling RPG books, really no one was selling board games. So the things that people came there to play, there really wasn't a store that was selling those things. We had a lot more crafty things. So we're definitely wanting to open it up next year to have more vendors and specifically recruit some game stores like Epic Loot. I know there's one in Cincinnati, Arkham House Games, who approached me. They want to be part of it for next year as well. I think we can provide those vendors with a service to come, and people wanted to buy stuff. The other thing they wanted to buy, t-shirts. We missed the boat. We totally missed the boat on not having a
People
AcadeCon
want
t-shirt.
clothes.
Yeah.
They do. Pants, underwear, t-shirts, AcadeCon on the stamp on everything.
Mostly t-shirts, few hoodies. Just about everyone on my screen is frozen except for Michael. So I don't know if Scott, Matt, Jared, or Caleb can hear us.
They're not
I'm
frozen
still
on
here.
mine. They're
Okay.
here.
All right. Yeah, everybody was frozen on my screen there for a minute. So any thoughts on the vendors then for anyone else who I thought was frozen?
I think there are more exciting ways to integrate them, and we've already talked about that. I think their presence was amazing. I think their support was amazing. The fact that there were a lot of professional vendors there, right? But there were also hobbyists who also were makers, and I think that is an incredible expression of the hobby, right? To be so interested in this that you create tidbits and sell them, and it's like a side business. And I really hope we welcome the maker hobbyist fold into the con, because in a way we're all creating, right? We're creating dramatic experiences, we're trying to create written works, we're trying to create websites, we're trying to create podcasts, we're creating, we're all creating together. Why can't they be a physical object?
Yeah, pretty much all the vendors, because we did a separate survey for them, I believe all but one of them has indicated strongly that they will be back. So I really hope that comes true, because I do want to add some additional vendors, but I absolutely want to keep the same ones that we had. They were a part of this journey with us as well, and I want them to continue to do so. Someone mentioned on chat about the t-shirts on Kickstarter. That is the current plan, is that there will be a Kickstarter exclusive t-shirt that you can only get as an add-on to the Kickstarter, and then we will have additional AcadeCon t-shirts for sale at the convention as well. And the price on the Kickstarter is cheaper than what the retail price would be for the other shirts too. So it's a bit of a deal for backing us on Kickstarter. It also helps give us a little bit more seed money to pay our down payments and stuff like that. So, kind of funny story. So looking at the survey feedback, our very first question, we asked, how did people find out about AcadeCon? And we kind of hit all of our bases. Our podcast, another podcast, Facebook, the radio spot that I did, and then we had other. Like 80% of people picked other. So I have no idea what that means.
You didn't have a field where you could specify what other was?
That's
Not
just
on that
Jared.
question.
That's
Not on that
Jared. They must assumed it was the other Jared.
Yep.
For the record, that is a fillable field.
Well, no one has used it.
I'm just
I'm
saying.
gonna go in right now
It's
just
there.
to be the one person that used it.
So yeah, we're definitely gonna look at it. It doesn't look like Facebook. Like we did some Facebook ads. We spent a little money on the Facebook to see how that would work, and we got a lot of likes for our pages, but it doesn't look like we actually translated a lot of those into badge sales. So that's pretty interesting. I'm actually curious about that. Shane said he typed in other. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate that. So that is one thing that I would like to probably get a little bit more information on, because we still don't exactly know what our best avenue for promotion was. Because again, we want to get to 500. That's a pretty significant increase, and we need to figure out where the majority of the people who came this year came from.
Well, yeah, because the website wasn't established until a bit after the Kickstarter, right?
Correct.
So it would have been nice to have that website to reference to send to people, because where to send people was kind of, you can go here, 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 or here. It would be nice to just be like, you just go here, and this is where you buy your tickets.
No, absolutely. The website is up. It's kind of basic. It's kind of plain. We are working on that as well, but again, web design costs money. But at least now we're going to do Kickstarter starting April 13th for pre-sales, but the website is there. And you're going to be able to go there at the same time. As soon as the Kickstarter ends, we'll convert over to Eventbrite, so there won't be any gap. The Kickstarter ends Sunday at noon. You're going to be able to buy badges on Eventbrite Sunday 12:01, which hopefully should help. And then we did get some feedback also on the survey about the website and how it was laid out. And one of our sponsors this past year is a web design company, and they've offered to work with me. And I'm sure it's going to cost something, but hopefully it's reasonable. We might be able to spend a little bit of money to get that revamped. I'm really hoping to do that. Somebody talked about local meetups. I did send messages to just about every meetup on meetup.com in 300 square mile area. I just went on meetup.com and started typing in stuff. Didn't get a lot of response to that. I think just blindly sending emails didn't really help, but I did go to a few as well, and that is something that we're going to hopefully do more of this year. So, all right. So I'm trying to think of some other things that came across the survey. We know food is an opportunity. Scheduling could be better. Panels definitely need to be in a different room. Some games needed separate rooms. Some games needed bigger tables. We need to find a way to really make sure people can connect with other gamers and get some pickup games going and get some full tables. T-shirts, definitely we're going to have T-shirts next year. We're also going to have some Kickstarter exclusive. But is there anything else that we need to talk about for next year? Sorry, William asked. There is a vendor fee. People did pay a fee for their table. We've changed the fee schedule next year for a little bit. In some ways, it's a little bit more generous because you can split a table, and then also there's going to be an add-on to get Wi-Fi, get a secure Wi-Fi network for people who want to do that.
I think we can all agree that we need more John and Neary.
Absolutely.
As much as possible, as often as possible.
In the hotel rooms, at the VIP event, in the halls.
In the food trucks. Yeah.
After hours.
Before hours.
During hours.
All the hours. Really, as much as John Neary as we could get.
Kickstarter stretch goal, John Neary. That's all it is. It just says John Neary.
I think it's just a series of high fives that you.
I think it's safe to say we should just call this the John Neary Con instead of AcadeCon.
I'm up for rebranding.
That is one of the benefits, Jen, about moving our weekend. If we're not right on top of Con on the Cob, it's very possible that we may be able to utilize them for some advertising, and they might be happy with us to move and say, hey, yeah, we'll give you some free advertising to our guests. So that is definitely something we're going to do. I've got some art coming in for next year's logo and emblem. And once that's finalized, we're going to print up some marketing stuff. I think we're going to do pencils this year, which I think is a great idea. And we're going to take those to a bunch of different cons and give them out at tables and some other flyer shop stuff. So all the cons I go to, and even some that I don't, we're going to be giving those out as well. I guess we can announce what the subtitle, I guess, for next year is.
I just did in the chat, by the way.
Oh, NearyCon?
NearyCon.
That is not official. That actually is
100% official.
Veto. So it was something game related for a while, which actually we thought about keeping that because I thought it was pretty funny, but it's actually way too long for the emblem. So this is our 5th year of doing AcadeCon. So after brainstorming, it came to us, why not call it AcadeCon 2017 5th edition?
Copyrighted.
And then underneath, AKA NearyCon.
Exactly. Also known as NearyCon.
So yeah, 5th edition. Yeah, I think it rings a lot of bells for people. I'm excited about it. And then they'll know how old it is.
It's cutesy, but again, D&D is my favorite game. It matches 5th edition. It is our 5th year. It just kind of works. So I'm really happy with it. When we were brainstorming, some of them were ludicrous and some of them were kind of cool. When that one came up, it was pretty much like I think that's it. So I've got art being done right now. As soon as it's finalized, we'll start printing up marketing stuff for our Kickstarter and for next year.
Oh, so there's no discussion. It's It is what it is.
It is what it is. It has been pronounced.
Put my foot down.
It's set in stone, like the date, which we're already possibly moving. So, everything's flexible.
I love, P.S., anybody who's watching it, I love that Michael is so frantic about this because the date changes like 1 week and he's like, well, they're gonna either have 10 months and 3 weeks or 10 months and 4 weeks to figure this out.
Yeah, but it just drives me crazy. And I've emailed the DCC like 5 times saying like, hey, can you please let me know if these dates are available? And they're not getting back to me. And it's, my hair is already turning gray as it is more so as we speak. But anyway, so enough of that. So anything else about AcadeCon we want to talk about? If there's any questions in chat, anybody we haven't already touched on, feel free to jump them in there and we'll hit them. But we'll start with Caleb. Caleb, any sort of final thoughts?
I'm very excited to move forward. I think it was great to see the convention grow as much as it did. I'm very curious to see how we evolve going forward. Because we had that first couple years where it was literally just a gamers weekend. We just happened to be organizing it for more than our close group of friends. Last year was just a bigger gaming weekend. This year was a legit convention. And I think from talking to people, that feeling of hanging out with friends was still there. I know that there were quite a few people who just really enjoyed spending time with people. They would break off. They would explore Dayton a little bit, find some of the better restaurants, things like that. So it was cool to see a 50-50 mix between, hey, this is a gaming convention, and hey, this is a weekend to hang out with people. So I'm very curious to see what happens as we move forward. If we're expecting another growth spurt, I don't know what's going to happen.
All right, Jared, how about you? Any final thoughts as we get close to wrapping this up?
Yeah, there were 2 things. So we have the Kickstarter date established. When did we say that was going to be?
April 13th, 1 p.m. Eastern.
I guess I'm a little curious as to how people feel about that day. If it's too early, if maybe they would prefer a different day. Maybe it's too early to plan for vacation, because I know November you got Thanksgiving, you got planning you got to do for traveling for Thanksgiving. Maybe they don't want to travel. I don't know. Like, I was just curious to see if there's any feedback on that date.
Well, we went back and forth last year about that because it's really close to about the same time, and that is a concern that we're asking for people to pledge early, which we're kind of modifying this year. We understand the Kickstarter is just for pre-sales. So this is for people who know they're coming, the people who are probably going to come every year, the people who want to be VIPs. But the biggest issue is we have to have a deposit at the DCC basically around March, April. So we need that money. Otherwise, there's about an $8,000 charge on my credit card that I can't pay. And again, if we don't sell them, then we probably just won't happen. Like if something were to happen and it just worked this year, people can't make it, or people just didn't have fun, they don't want to come back. If we can't make that Kickstarter happen that early, then we probably will have to rethink the entire thing and either downscale or skip a year. So my goal, and Caleb and I, we went back and forth about this a lot. We want to get away from Kickstarter. Like, this probably will be the last year that we use Kickstarter, because as a legitimate convention, we should just be able to open up pre-sales, say, hey, badges go on sale on Eventbrite. This is the day, go for it. But I think we're hedging our bets a little bit one more year, mostly because as successful as this year was, we decided to expand. So we've added on additional rooms. That costs more. So the DCC was already most of our expenses last year at over $6,000. This year, our quote right now is over $8,000. So we're asking for a bigger room. I think I want that security blanket of, hey, we've ran 2 successful Kickstarters. I think we can do another one. Make sure we've got money in the bank before we start putting stuff on our credit card.
Okay. And then my other question was, and I know this is a tall order, and you've probably already discussed this in some form or matter, but whether or not the the hotels will offer a discount for maybe people who are GMs or VIPs, or if there's a way we could offer such a deal. And
So
not to put you on the spot, but
no. These are all. I mean, I'm glad you're asking them. If there's probably someone, even if they're not in the chat room now, who may listen to this later, who has those same questions. We are trying to find ways to recognize and reward our GMs. Like currently, we give them a very discounted ticket. I know in a lot of conventions they don't pay anything, and if you run enough games, they cover your hotel. I would love to do that. We cannot afford that right now. There's no way that would be feasible for our budget.
We'll give you $1 off your stay at the hotel.
The hotel is giving us a discount. According to my contact with them, it's the biggest discount they give at that time of the year. Okay. And there's really not much else we can do about it. But we are looking at ways that we can reward GMs, DMs as well. You know, some simple things like just giving them a free water or covering one of their meals at the concession stand. But again, everything comes down to what can we do versus what we want to do. You know, we actually made a little bit of money this year. We didn't make a ton, but we did make some money. So we had some stuff we could have played with. Maybe we could have afforded to give everybody a couple bucks to pay for something, but we didn't know that until the end. But as we continue to grow, I want to do things like cover a meal, give them a free t-shirt, or just give them a free diet, you know, something that we can do to recognize them. Because without GMs, there is no AcadeCon. Plain and simple, any convention, the lifeblood is good GMs. So we need to bring them in. I currently feel like a $10 badge off of what is normally a $40 badge is sufficient. And a lot of the GMs, because we had questions about that on the survey, and several people said they actually think that is enough and that anything more than that might be more than necessary. But I wonder if that was the GMs who said that or the other people. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's all I had. Those were the two questions that I had. So
awesome. All right, Matthew.
What was the question?
So just sort of final thoughts, wrapping up.
Great time. Can't wait to do it again. Maybe less Chicago Uno pizza. More barbecue place. That's about it.
Okay. A couple other questions came through just about the ratio to GMs to players. We had set 50 GM badges based on the fact that we thought we would get around 300 attendees. So it kind of makes sense, you know, 6 people at a table times 50, 300. We ended up selling more badges, but we also had some people that didn't show up. So we actually ended up with more GMs than we needed, which did lead into some of those problems where some games didn't go or some games didn't have full tables. I think that hopefully next year we'll have closer to 500 people. I think that will solve a lot of those problems in and of itself. But I would rather have GMs that don't have players than players that don't have GMs, because that one is a much easier problem to fix at the time. While I'm sorry for GMs who wanted to run a game and couldn't, because I know that that's disappointing as well. I think that's an easier problem to deal with. So I'm happier with more GMs than less. All right, Michael, how about you?
So go big in all areas. I think Matt hit on a bunch of the sort of things that I had forgot to say, which are those things that make cons great and interesting. The live play events, the sort of shows, the music, the things that you don't get just by playing with your friends week to week. The people, I think, is a huge draw, like he said. So I'm excited about all of that going into the next year. I'm excited about the new con schedule for marketing and just going to other conventions, and I like marketing there. And I think it's great that that's something that we all can take away. What are other cons doing successfully, and looking at that and bringing that into our conversation. And what is that? But really, I think it just revolves around, a really long Twitter conversation and one getaway to Michigan for us to solve this. Just like 100,000 Twitter verse long, and we'll get it down. If we get to 100,000, we'll get it.
We will figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah. Oh, and Will said doing a LARP, and those sort of things that are that people are willing to put money into, and myself, nerddom included, into putting money into the things that they can't make happen themselves.
So just mentioning on the LARP, there was an organization from Dayton that does a LARP that contacted me, and they wanted to have a vendor area set up where they could like show off some of their game and wares, and I think do like the Boffer LARP fights and recruit players. And it just didn't happen. I'm hoping that they may come next year. I think the fact they asked like how many people did we expect? I don't know if it was worth their time and money for our size, or maybe they just got busy. I don't know, but we never finalized the deal. But that is definitely something that we could look at doing. I could kind of approach them and really recruit that. So whether we would actually have a LARP on site, but we could have that part of what we're trying to do.
And
awesome.
And just making sure that Rob Stiff does every horror game with as many fluorescent lights as possible over him would be perfect.
Nice. All right, and Scott, you can bring us home. So any last thoughts about AcadeCon 2016 or 2017? And then after you, I'll turn over. If there's any questions in the chat, we'll address them. Otherwise, we'll close up shop.
I would say that my favorite part of the con was the getting to see the friends that I'd made last year and meeting new friends that I made this year. And I look forward to continuing that trend next year. It's a good, tight-knit bunch of folks.
Yeah, I don't know that I could have anticipated it going any better than it did. And yeah, there were some issues that popped up. Our personal scheduling of all the faculty was haphazard at best, but we made it happen. And by we, I mean you guys. And again, if you haven't listened to the podcast Caleb and I did, we were very appreciative of all the faculty, those of you on the call right now and those that aren't. We could not have made it happen without you. People just jumped in and ran games on no notice whatsoever because people needed to play in the game, barely taking lunch breaks, barely taking bathroom breaks, little sleep. And we absolutely love you guys for that and love that you want to be a part of what we're trying to do. But we also don't want to keep asking that of you. It's not fair. So we want to try to do a better job of that for next year. So Shane was asking if there's any special guests. Not specifically, just about all the guests who came last year have somewhat said that they're interested in coming back. It's still so far away. Nothing has been set in stone, but I would expect most of the people who came this year would come again. I do know that Rob Schwab is not coming. He's already contacted me. He has a couple of conflicts. Both of the dates we're looking at, he can't do anyway. So unfortunately, because again, I love Rob, he's the only one that I know for sure that will not be there next year.
That sucks.
Feels bad, man. But he'll be there in spirit. I think one of us is going to have to take up the mantle.
Yeah. So the seat for the most disturbing game in the con is up for grabs.
Well, we know that's Danny in a heart. Danny is our Rob Schwab.
That's true. I think we do auditions to see who can compress the most awesomely perverse thing in a 15-second sentence, and then we just that's who gets to run it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. Very, very cool.
There is a matter we need to discuss, though, and to interrupt, and that's I think we need to discuss the RPG Academy mascot. I think it needs to be a vulture. I think we need to get in the works on getting that taken care of.
At least the vulture option shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, maybe that's the Kickstarter because we're gonna have a specially designed logo for the Kickstarter only T-shirt, which is not designed yet. So we have a lot of opportunity here.
I'll donate a lot of my own money just to see that happen. Of course, I'll be the one that has to wear it, but
a lot of us are wanting the "I was there when vultures almost ate me" T-shirt.
Huh?
I mean, we could be something that, if you back the Kickstarter, we don't have to go back. So, I saved you from a vulture by backing the Kickstarter. So. Nice. Greg was mentioning in the chat that there's a movie theater nearby. We might be able to work out something, maybe have them show like a particularly geeky movie on one of the nights where we could organize like a social event. I would certainly be open to doing something like that.
Or we could show the movie I was in.
Yes.
No, that's
if you did not know, Matthew Parody is a movie star. He has an IMDb.
Whoa. I do have an IMDb page, and I was paid a stupid amount of money to do that movie, but I would not use the word star.
You were the star in my book.
Well, you know what?
No,
you're getting a Christmas card.
It's right over there. If I had pants on, I would step up over there and get it. But it's called Reality Kills, right?
All I'm hearing is that we have a movie star on our faculty.
Yeah.
That's
All I'm hearing is that Michael
Yeah.
doesn't have pants on.
That too.
Oh, there it is. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Awesome. Well, thank you guys, all the faculty, for joining us tonight, and thank you again for what you did for AcadeCon 2016. Thank you for what you've already started doing for 2017 and all the planning and all the craziness that I send your way. And thank you for everybody who's in the chat hanging out with us. It encourages us to do more of this live events, and anyone who's listening in the future as we do more and more. And actually, I think what I'll close with is Scott, would you like to make any announcements in regards to any sort of like live future events?
Yes, I might actually want to do that. Thanks, Michael. That's a good idea. Yeah. So, your friends and neighbors, ladies and gentlemen out there in Radio Land, your friends and neighbors here at the RPG Academy are concerned that you only get podcasts eventually, and we want to get you the wonder that is us, all of us, and all this faster. And the fastest way we know how to do it, aside from this lovely Google live stream, is over Twitch, the gaming platform live stream source of choice for the youngins. Ask your little ones about it if you haven't heard about it. I'm sure they're already streaming day and night. So we're the RPG Academy is opening a Twitch channel, and we'll start with one regularly seasoned Twitch specific show. You guys can tune in and see Lawful and Orderly, the special visions unit of the procedural police cop show that we're going to be running in a fantasy setting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And then also we'll be live streaming a lot of other content from RPG Academy and of course network affiliates too. So tune in; it'll be great.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. If you guys didn't catch on, I asked Scott specifically because he's heading up the Twitch channel, so he will be, at least to start with, kind of organizing it. Are you running that game? Is that a game you're DMing?
It's an episodic police procedural, so we're going to trade off all four players. Two of our players are brand new to gaming, so it's an adventure, and I think it's going to be good. We've had a few test runs. It's been good.
Hey, can I ask you to post the link to your channel so I can put it in? I'll advertise it in my Twitch channel for you.
Oh yeah,
Twitch.tv/the RPG Academy.
Oh, well, that was easy.
Yep. There's no content there yet, but there will be very shortly. So stay tuned.
I think there might be something on that I did there like a year ago that's stupid and awful. But if the Twitch thing goes well, we absolutely would like to continue to do more of that in the future, possibly, again, getting some special guests on. I don't think with our schedule we can do something where it's like 5 days a week like some of the other Twitch channels, but more RPG Academy. What's not to love, right? So anyway, before we continue to go gushing on and on, we will close it up here. Thank you again, once again, everyone, and good night.